football. This is part 2 of the Raider management series. This part concerns Mark Davis's approach to management and his handling of what is now the handed down legacy of Al Davis, which is now Mark Davis's to run as he chooses. From what I understand, Mark Davis made the decision to write a $1 million check to each team in the NFL to settle what he considered to be his father's outstanding legal debt. He paid out $31 million to the rest of the NFL. He did that at a time when apparently he did not have a facility for his players that was up to par. Well, according to Jack Del Rio, and apparently according to Mark Davis, since Mark Davis also signed a check to get the facilities updated. Very questionable decision. It only makes sense if Mark Davis is doing this as a way to make nice with the NFL, which is certainly an interesting tactic and a complete change from what has been the history of the Raiders. The Raiders were based on Al Davis's personality, and Al Davis was all about the Raiders. There's a bunch of history to this, and there are good reasons for it. If Mark Davis thinks that this move, in addition to some of the other moves, which I will get into, are a way of making friends with the NFL and making nice with the NFL in hopes that the NFL will treat the Raiders like any other NFL team, it's a very interesting tactic. Based on the other things that we've seen Mark Davis do, I question whether or not he is actually that savvy a business person to be able to pull that off. The NFL doesn't care about the Raiders, and we shouldn't care what they think. Two people, Marcus Allen and Mike Shanahan. Let's begin with Marcus Allen. Great Raider player loved by the fans. Certainly those of us who were fans long enough to have actually seen Marcus Allen's career understand how great he was and how important he was to the organization. Here's the thing. Al Davis and Marcus Allen had a problem, or at least Al Davis had a problem with Marcus Allen. Most fans felt like there should be a point at which there should be a reconciliation and Marcus Allen should be allowed to come back within the arms of the Raider family. Mark Davis made that possible. He did it by having Marcus Allen come and light the torch, the ceremonial torch at the Coliseum before a Raider game. Here's the thing. The torch actually represents the spirit of Al Davis. It would have been just as easy for Mark Davis to have presented Marcus and brought him back in a different way. He could have brought him back with a press conference. He could have brought him back by having a ceremony at midfield during halftime. My opinion would have been more appropriate. Fans are certainly glad to have Marcus back. Got no issue with that. But just the choice of the way to present it, questionable. The other person, and this is the big one, Mike Shanahan. There are hundreds of coaches who coach football in this country. Any of them could be the coach of the Raiders. There was no reason to ever consider Mike Shanahan. Mike Shanahan was Al Davis's greatest enemy to the day he died. For his son, for anybody who was in charge of this organization to feel like it was appropriate to bring back Mike Shanahan The fans were not clamoring for Mike Shanahan. Frankly, his hiring would have caused a split among the fans. Even the suggestion of his name was a hardship on a lot of fans. And I know there are people who feel like, well, if he's a good coach, bring him back. No. There are a lot of good coaches. Why Shanahan? And again, I think this points to an attitude on Mark Davis's part of trying to make nice with the NFL. Well, the Raiders shouldn't care. Shouldn't care what the NFL thinks. Shouldn't care what the NFL does. Do you and be great on your own terms. There is a playlist on my channel. There's only one playlist, and it's a documentary. It's called The Rebels of Oakland. And I'm going to suggest that anyone who is a younger fan watch it. It's really good. It gives you a sense of who the Raiders have been, and it's really about when they were at their greatest. All those out there say the greatness of the Raiders is in their future. And here's a short story. This relates to the NFL being an enemy to the Raiders. Al Davis was one of the first people who saw that luxury boxes and stadium amenities were going to be the thing of the future and important to teams in terms of prestige, fan comfort, and also as a secondary revenue stream. And he was negotiating, or he thought he was negotiating with the city of Oakland to renovate the stadium, to renovate the Coliseum in Oakland. The city of Oakland was not negotiating in good faith at all, and that was attested to by the fact that the mayor of Oakland at the time, Lionel Wilson, had a meeting with Pete Rozelle, who was the commissioner of football at the time, in which Al Davis had become so frustrated over time in his dealings with the city of Oakland that he apparently told them that he was considering moving the team. The mayor of Oakland asked the commissioner of football whether or not Al Davis could do that. Pete Rozelle told the mayor, no, he cannot move the team without approval of the other NFL owners, and we will not give him that approval. That gave the Oakland mayor balls big enough to stonewall Al Davis, and we know what happened after that. This leads to our next topic, which is the newest, latest, greatest stadium proposal laid out by Mark Davis, that the Raiders and the Chargers share a stadium in Southern California. When I first heard this, all I could think was Irwindale. I'll leave that to you folks to do some research on that one. Just remember the name is Irwindale. Again, this looks like a tactic. I don't think that stadium's ever going to get built. It looks like a tactic to apply pressure to God knows who, the NFL, Oakland, on Mark Davis's part. It's a horrible idea. The Raiders and the Chargers have been division rivals since the AFL days. For them to play in the same stadium is ludicrous. And the NFL countered this proposal by telling these two teams, if they do that, one of the teams will have to change conferences and go play in the NFC. Really? The Raiders are going to move to the NFC, or the Chargers are going to move to the NFC. On the face of it, it's just ridiculous. Hopefully all this is a tactic. But unfortunately, I don't think Mark Davis is savvy enough to pull it off. This is the next portion of the issue with the stadium and building a stadium somewhere in Southern California. Two teams, the Cowboys and the 49ers, both have new stadiums. The 49er stadium is a sham. It's built in a place where there's nothing around it. There's no other life around it to do something. It's just a stadium. It's brand spanking new, but it has no features that relate to helping the home team. There is no home team advantage there. The Seattle Seahawks used technology and built a stadium that increases the volume of their crowd noise. The 49er stadium doesn't do that. There are other issues with the Cowboys' new stadium. It's a stadium that's fabulous to look at on television. But for the fans who have actually been longtime fans of that team, they've been priced out. They've been priced out of that stadium. The same thing happened with San Francisco. There's actually a documentary, and I wish I could remember the name of it to tell you guys, but the documentary is about a bunch of longtime Cowboy fans and the progression of what's going on with leading up to their building and opening in their new stadium. And they had fans there who've been tailgating for 20 years who were moved out into the boondocks away from the stadium, or simply priced out and gentrified out and moved out of tailgating. Now, can you imagine going to a Raider game where there's no tailgate? Think about that for a minute. Can you even imagine that? Going to a stadium, a home stadium for the Raiders, where there's no tailgate. The Los Angeles area, and actually Los Angeles in particular, has had 3 professional football teams. And I'm not talking about these off-brand leagues. The Rams were in Los Angeles, the Raiders were there, and San Diego was there. Now Los Angeles has 0. Why is that? The NFL continually tells us that's a great market, there's money to be made there, and they went from 3 teams to 0. Why is that? It's because the same reason that Al Davis moved the team from Oakland is the same reason that he moved the team from Los Angeles. And I'm going to tell you what that is. Those of you who live in Los Angeles, some of you already know what I'm going to say, and you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. And what I'm talking about right now does not address Raider fans. I am not talking about Raider fans. I am talking about LA fans. The same fans who love the Lakers when they have a Magic Johnson and a bunch of star power in their showtime. But when they're not very good, they either don't show up and don't sell out games, or they do the traditional thing of, like they do at the Dodger games, where they show up in the 3rd inning and leave in the 7th inning, because it's Los Angeles and it's an entertainment capital. And they're not coming there because they love the team. They're coming there because it's an event and it's entertaining and it's fun and it's the popular thing to do. Once again, I'm going to repeat this because some of you guys are going to miss this. I'm not talking about Raider fans. There are Raider fans in LA that are real Raider fans, and they're going to show up regardless. But if they build a new stadium, they're not looking to capture you and they're not looking to please you. They're looking to capture those peripheral fans, those LA sports fans. The ones who don't support when the team is down, those fans who show up late and leave early and just came to see whoever the star on the team is, and hopefully he's a local guy to bring some interest. Maybe he's someone who went to college there, and that'll bring local interest. But those of you who are old enough to remember the last years of the Raiders being there and how empty that Coliseum was. The only good answer is if somehow the Raiders can actually get a stadium built in Oakland. That's the only good answer. A second answer would certainly be playing in Southern California. But trust me, for a lot of people I see who are doing a rah-rah thing of, yeah, move down here, I live down here, come move down here, it's not going to be what you think it's going to be. Jack Del Rio. Jack Del Rio might be the best thing that's happened to the Raiders in years. Jack Del Rio might very well be the best thing that's happened to this organization since the passing of Al Davis. Jack Del Rio is a serious-minded person. He's coached before as a head coach. And so the experience of being in an organization and understanding the ins and outs of all the things that go on around the organization are going to be critical. And like I've said before, the fact that he walked the facility, recognized and took notes to recognize that the things from the training room to the conference room where they hold press conferences are subpar, and address that immediately is going to be important. It's going to be, his impact is going to be so, I think, is going to be so important that player personnel issues are going to bleed over into his responsibility. And related to Reggie McKenzie, if Jack Del Rio is the coach that I think he is, then that shouldn't be a problem. That'll actually end up being a good thing. And as they're rebuilding this organization from the top down, Jack Del Rio is a very, or at least he seems to be, and he looks like a very solid, important piece. And frankly, I see him being given more responsibility, him taking more responsibility, him being given more responsibility over the next year, 2, 3 years. And I don't know if Mark Davis is going to hire another person who's going to act as the president. But I see Reggie McKenzie's position changing, not his title, but his position, and that he will not, in the end, be a traditional GM, and he will have less responsibility for the entire football team and more responsibility for player acquisition, given that he has demonstrated that that is his strongest suit. Not that he's great at it, although I think he's done a good job, and there's certainly enough players that give me confidence in him to handle that part, but that is his strong suit. He has demonstrated that's his strong suit. And related to that, also, in terms of his strengths and his weaknesses, Jack Del Rio also helps the organization because he can speak to a camera and he can speak to the press. Reggie McKenzie does not need to handle that responsibility anymore. He's not good at it. And the fact that Mark Davis is hesitant to do it, I don't know whether or not he's the best person to do it, just because I haven't seen him do it enough. The time that I've seen Jack Del Rio in front of the camera, I felt good about the way that he was representing the organization, just from his ability to speak to a camera and answer questions. It's important. It's important to us as fans. I don't have to jog anybody's memory to remember how painful it often was to listen to Dennis Allen say things that we knew weren't true, and just generally speaking, just be not good with the press. And enough said about the way that Reggie McKenzie presents himself in front of a camera. So in conclusion, the way that Mark Davis has laid things out, in my opinion, clearly he's trying to make nice to the NFL, but it looks like a kid who walking around the schoolyard, handing out the good parts of his lunch. Here, want some chips? Want my candy? Want my pudding? And attempt to make friends. I don't think it's gonna work. Marcus Allen coming back, good. The way he was brought back, bad. Shanahan being considered, ridiculous. And giving $1 million each to other NFL teams while your own team needs all the help it can get, questionable. New stadium, as I said, if it's in Los Angeles, it's not going to be what most fans seem to think it's going to be. Happy Jack Del Rio's here. Reggie McKenzie's job responsibility is going to change. Hoping that he continues on. Oh, and also, let me say this about Reggie McKenzie. His strong suit is in player acquisition through the draft. The two players who he gets most credit for drafting are Khalil Mack and Derek Carr. Khalil Mack was projected to go as high as first, so that when it came around time for the Raiders to pick and he was still available, it was surprising. So in NFL parlance, he dropped to the Raiders. Reggie McKenzie didn't make a shrewd move and acquire him. He fell to the Raiders. Same thing with Derek Carr. There's no way that Derek Carr should have still been available when he was picked and when he was drafted by the Raiders. He shouldn't have been there. He fell into the Raiders' lap, and Reggie McKenzie caught him. So while I'm certainly happy that both those players are here, I take it with a grain of salt that Reggie McKenzie was the person who picked. I was hoping to make a video about the Raiders' needs in terms of their roster, and maybe I will. But frankly, I had some house cleaning to do, because these are just some things, the videos I've made so far were things that were just on my mind. And so I had to get some of the stuff off my chest and share it with you guys. Some of the videos I make, as I said, will be more about historical stuff with the Raiders. Of course, during the season, I'll make regular videos, and they'll be about the games and the game management and the players and all that. You guys are, of course, as always, welcome to make whatever comments. Thus far, I've been able to actually reply to all the comments on the videos, and I appreciate all of them. So keep doing that, and we'll see you next time. Peace.